Welcome to another round of popular motion pictures that have been turned into one-hour television shows. The transition of movies made into television shows, or the reverse of television shows made into movies, is always an interesting experiment with various degrees of success. In this video, you'll see some hits and some misses. What I will present to you are shows mixed in quality and reception among viewers and critics. This video happens to be Volume 2 on this subject, and I'll have the link to Volume 1 in the description. Let's get going with 10 more movies turned into one-hour television shows. Starman is a 1984 American science fiction romance drama film directed by John Carpenter and written by Bruce A. Evans and Reynold Gideon. It tells the story of the relationship between recently widowed Jenny Hayden, played by Karen Allen, and a non-corporeal alien who has come to Earth and cloned a human body, portrayed by Jeff Bridges, in response to the invitation found on the gold phonograph record installed on the Voyager 2 space probe. The film received positive reviews but faltered in its initial box office debut. Bridges was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role. It inspired the short-lived Starman television series in 1986. And Starman is an American science fiction television series starring Robert Hayes and Christopher Daniel Barnes, which continues the story from the 1984 film of the same name. The series aired on ABC from September 19th of 1986 to May 2nd of 1987. The series takes place 15 years after the film's story and features the return of the alien as a clone of deceased photojournalist Paul Forrester to meet and guide his now teenage son Scott Hayden Jr. as they try to avoid a U.S. government agent and find the missing Jenny Hayden, Scott's mother. Each episode of the series has the fugitive father and son moving from place to place, meeting people that are in need of some assistance, while Scott tries to explain to his alien father what it means to be human being as Starman is forced to deal with the fallout from Forrester's rather hedonistic past. Each has a small silvery sphere of alien material about 3 to 4 centimeters in diameter that allows a trained mind to project thoughts, to carry out telekinesis or telepathy in some limited manner. Starman is adept, but Scott is learning how to focus. In one episode, Blue Lights, Scott inadvertently creates a picturesque image of a rotating ring of blue lights that is mistaken for a UFO. Both are also able to empathically connect with animals. Starman and Scott are constantly trying to stay one step ahead of government UFO investigator George Fox, who regards both father and son as a threat to humanity. It would now tolerate them running free in society. This sounds really familiar. Did the Incredible Hulk kind of have the same premise?
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
In one episode, when Starman tells Fox that the children are the world's hope for the future, Fox reacts with hostility to imply that Scott is some sort of mutant and therefore not acceptable. Starman, however, holds no malice towards Fox and even treats a life-threatening condition Fox has before he and Scott make their escape. In a 2-part episode, Starscape, Starman and Scott find Jenny Hayden, this time played by Erin Gray, living as an artist under the name Karen Iselli in Arizona. One more episode, The Test, aired after the 2-part episode, trying to pave the way for a second season, but the series was canceled. The cast was Robert Hayes as Paul Forrester / Starman, Christian Daniel Barnes as Scott Hayden Jr., Michael Cavanaugh played George Fox, and Patrick Culleton as FSA Agent Wiley. Starman scored critics' rating of 34 out of 100 on Metacritic, based on 5 generally unfavorable reviews. These ranged from the Miami Herald calling it warm and funny to Los Angeles Times stating, "Brother, is this a drag?" Planet of the Apes is a science fiction media franchise consisting of films, books, television series, comics, and other media about a post-apocalyptic world in which humans and intelligent apes clash for control as the dominant species. The franchise started with French author Pierre Boyle's 1963 novel La Planète des Singes, translated into English as Planet of the Apes or Monkey Planet. In its 1968 film adaptation, Planet Planet of the Apes was a critical and commercial hit, initiating a series of sequels, tie-ins, and derivative works. Arthur P. Jacobs produced the first 5 Apes films through Applejack Productions for distribution 20th Century Fox. Following his death in 1973, Fox controlled the franchise before its acquisition by Disney in 2019. 4 sequels followed the original film from 1970 to 1973, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of Planet of the Apes, and Battle for Planet of the Apes. They did not approach critical acclaim of the original, but were commercially successful, spawning a live-action television series in 1974 and an animated series in 1975. Plans for a film remake stalled in development hell for over 10 years before the 2001 release of Planet of the Apes, directed by Tim Burton. A reboot film series commenced in 2011 with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was followed by Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014, and War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017. In 2019, further sequels to the 2011 reboot series entered production, with Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, released in 2024. Planet of the Apes is the longest-running American science fiction film series and has grossed a total of over $2 billion U.S. worldwide against a combined budget of $567.5 million. It has received particular attention among film critics for its treatment of racial issues. Cinema and cultural analysis have also explored its Cold War and animal rights themes. The series has influenced subsequent films, media, and art, as well as popular culture and political discourse. Now, as mentioned, there was a series. Planet of the Apes is a 1974 American science fiction television series that was broadcast on CBS, and the series featured Roddy McDowall, Ron Harper, James Naughton, and Mark Leonard. It is based on the 1968 film of the same name and its sequel, which were in turn based on the 1963 novel Planet of the Apes by Pierre Boyle. The series begins with the crash of an Earth spaceship that encountered a time warp while approaching Alpha Centauri. On August 19th of 1980, the spaceship is crewed by 3 astronauts, one of whom had died in the crash. The other 2 astronauts, Colonel Alan Verdon and Major Peter J. Burke, are unconscious but are rescued by an old man who carries them to an old bomb shelter. After the old man opens a book containing historical text and pictures of Earth circa 2500, the 2 astronauts are convinced that they are indeed on a future Earth. The crash is also witnessed by a young chimpanzee who tells his father, a village official who alerts the authorities. Ape Counselor Zaius, an analog of the character from the original movie, notes that another such incident occurred 10 years ago. Charlton Heston, anyone? He orders the chief gorilla, security chief Urko, to find the humans and bring them back alive. Zaius wants to find out as much as he can about the humans before they are eventually killed. Zaius doesn't trust Urko to follow his orders and bring back any surviving humans, so he sends along his newly hired chimpanzee assistant, Galen. Both Verdon and Burke go back to their ship to check the ship's chronometer. They are more than 1,000 years in the future from when they left Earth. Verdon insists on retrieving the ship's flight log in hopes that they will be able to analyze it and be able to return to their own time period. But while they're at the ship, they are captured, and the old man is subsequently killed by a group of apes. Galen finds the human book that the old man had been carrying. He reads part of the book and begins to doubt the history that he has been told. Apes have always been dominant, and humans have always been inferior and subservient. When Galen finds out that Urko has arranged for the 2 astronauts to escape and be killed in the attempt, he stops the shooter and helps the humans escape. During the escape, a guard is killed, and Galen is found standing over him with a gun in his hand. Galen discusses the book that he found with Zaius, who then accuses him of heresy. Galen is sentenced to death for his crime. Then Verdon and Burke find out about his sentence and rescue Galen. They are all then declared enemies of the state and become fugitives. The 3 fugitives thereafter wander around the territory that used to be the western United States, having various encounters with apes, humans, and old human civilization ruins. The cast was Rodney McDowall as Galen, a young chimpanzee that is sent by Zaius with Urko to ensure the safety of 2 humans that have survived a crash landing on Earth. McDowall previously played Cornelius and Caesar throughout the various movie versions. Ron Harper as Colonel Alan Verdon, the human commander of the crash-landed ANSA, A-N-S-A spaceship from 20th century Earth. James Naughton as Major Peter J. Burke, a human astronaut that also survived the crash. Mark Leonard, I didn't even know Mark Leonard was in this, as Security Chief Urko, I would never have guessed, a violent gorilla and the series' main antagonist. I used to watch that show, and I never put Mark Leonard in that costume. Huh. Booth Coleman is Counselor Zaius, the highest-ranking member of the High Council of Central City in the year 3085. John Hoyt is Barlow, a chimpanzee, perfect of Kamak, who had introduced gladiatorial fights between the humans in the gladiators and whose horse later competes against Urkos in the horse race. Jacqueline Scott is a chimpanzee farmer's daughter, Xanis, in The Good Seeds, and as Kira, Galen's chimpanzee ex-fiancée and surgeon in The Surgeon. Discussions for the Planet of the Apes television series were made by producer Arthur P. Jacobs as early as 1971. Because of the success of the movies, the idea of a television series was delayed until after the completion of Battle for the Planet of the Apes during the first half of 1973. However, soon after the premiere of Battle, Jacobs died and his production company, APJAC, Appjack Productions sold all Planet of the Apes rights and privileges to 20th Century Fox. Subsequently, television rights for the first 3 Planet of the Apes movies were sold to CBS and broadcast successfully during the September of 1973. Based largely on high viewership of Movie of the Week television broadcasts of the first few movies, CBS began to disfavor other contenders for a new science fiction series, including Gene Roddenberry's Genesis 2 from 1973, and favored proposals for a Planet of the Apes television series. Fox and CBS then continued Jacobs' plans of a series the next year. CBS ordered 14 episodes of Planet of the Apes to be produced. The series was filmed, for the most part, on location at what is now Malibu Creek State Park, with a budget of about $250,000 for each episode. Originally scheduled to be broadcast during CBS's Tuesday Night Family Hour, the first regular episode of the series was broadcast on Friday, September 13th, 1974, from 8 to 9 p.m. The remainder of the series was broadcast during this same time slot until December 27th of 1974, when its 14th and final broadcast was not shown as a result of a premature cancellation of the series due to poor ratings. In 1980, 10 episodes of the series were edited into 5 made-for-television movies: Back to the Planet of the Apes, Forgotten City of the Planet of the Apes, Treachery and Greed on the Planet of the Apes, Life, Liberty, and Pursuit on the Planet of the Apes, and Farewell to the Planet of the Apes. When the Planet of the Apes telefilms began syndication, ABC owned and operated stations who bought them for their afternoon movie programs. They asked Rodney McDowall to recreate his role of Galen in a new series of new beginnings and endings specifically for these stations, billed as the New Planet of the Apes. The introductions created originally by 20th Century Fox to begin each film were replaced by a now-aged Galen examining the events of the telefilms. The beginnings and endings revealed Verdon and Burke's final fates. They found their computer in another city and disappeared into space as suddenly as they arrived. According to TV Zone Special number 17, McDowall filmed these 2 years after the demise of the first-run episodes of the Planet of the Apes television series, which would be December 1976. The ABC openings and closings of these telefilms were neither broadcast by other stations nor included on any home media release. Fame is a 1980 American teen musical drama film directed by Alan Parker and written by Christopher Gore. Set in New York City, it chronicles the lives and hardships of students attending the High School of Performing Arts from their auditions to their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years. Producer David D. Silva conceived the premise in 1976, partially inspired by a musical A Chorus Line. He commissioned playwright Gore to write the script, originally titled Hot Lunch, before selling it to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. After he was hired to direct the film, Parker rewrote the script with Gore aiming for a darker and more dramatic tone. The script's subject matter received criticism by the New York Board of Education, which prevented the production from filming in the actual High School of Performing Arts. The film was shot on location in New York City with principal photography beginning in July of 1979 and concluding after 91 days. Parker encountered a difficult filming process, which included conflicts with the U.S. labor unions over various aspects of the film's production. Fame received a limited release beginning in the Ziegfeld Theater in New York City on May 12th of 1980 and had a wide release in the United States on June 20th by United Artists. The film grossed over $42 million worldwide against a production budget of $8.5 million. It initially received a mixed response from reviewers who praised the music but criticized the dramatic tone, pacing, and direction, although the film has been reappraised over the years. The film received several several awards and nominations, including 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Song, Fame, We're Gonna Live Forever, and the Best Original Score, and a Golden Globe Award for the Best Original Song, Fame, We're Gonna Live Forever. Its success spawned a media franchise encompassing several television series, a stage musical, and a remake released in 2009. In 2023, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And of course, this video is about Fame is an American musical drama television series based on the 1980 film of the same name. It followed the lives of students and faculty at New York City's High School of Performing Arts. Most interior scenes were filmed in Hollywood, California. In all seasons except the third, the show filmed several exterior scenes on location in New York City. The popularity of the series around the world, most notably in the United Kingdom, led to several hit records and live concert tours by the cast. Despite its success, few of the actors maintained high-profile careers after the series was canceled. Several of the cast members were seen again briefly in Bring Back Fame, a reunion special made for Channel 4 in the United Kingdom in 2008. Fame was produced by MGM Television and aired Thursday nights at 8 to 9 on NBC beginning January 7th of 1982. NBC promoted its Thursday lineup, Fame, Cheers, Taxi, and then later Night Court and Hill Street Blues, as the best night on television. The best night of television on television. Despite glowing reviews from critics, ratings were less than impressive, and NBC canceled Fame after only 2 seasons. However, by special arrangements with LBS Communications, MGM revived the series for first-run syndication in the fall of 1983, where it continued for 4 more seasons, with the last first-run episode airing in the U.S. on May 18th of 1987. Production of the series ultimately allowed MGM to retain the intellectual property on the Fame franchise for future use, despite rights to the original film going to the Turner Entertainment and now being held by Warner Brothers, as Turner would sell the studio to United Artists shortly after acquiring it in 1986. 4 cast members from the original movie appeared in the television series. Lee Carreri portrayed the character of Bruno Martelli, an introverted musical genius. Gene Anthony Ray portrayed Leroy Johnson, a tough hood from the projects with a natural talent for dance who muscles his way into an audition and wins. In the film, Leroy is also semi-illiterate, but this was dropped in favor of him having 4th grade reading level in the television series. Albert Haig played teacher Benjamin Shorofsky, a German music teacher who constantly battled with Bruno Martelli over musical styles. The final cast member from the film was Debbie Allen, who portrayed Linda Grant. Allen only appeared briefly in the movie, but her character was expanded in the series. She also became the show's original choreographer, in addition to directing several episodes and co-producing 1 season. Several characters were carried over from the movie, played by different actors. Irene Carrera portrayed Coco Hernandez in the film, but the part of the TV was played by Erica Gimbel. Actor Paul McCrane played gay student Montgomery McNeil in the film, but P.R. Paul portrayed Montgomery for TV, and the character was no longer gay. Okay, it was a sign of the times, I guess. English teacher Elizabeth Sherwood was played in the film by actress Anne Mary, but in the series was played by actress Carol Mayo Jenkins. The character Doris had her name changed from Doris Finsecker, portrayed by Maureen Teffey, to Doris Schwartz. I guess Finsecker didn't go over too well in 80s television. Valerie Landsberg, Doris Schwartz, where was I? The character of Ralph Garcia, Tommy Aguilar, inheriting the role played by Barry Miller in the film, appeared only in the pilot. Also, 2 new characters were introduced in the TV series. Cello player Julie Miller, played by Laurie Singer, and actor-comedian Danny Omatello, whose last name is named after the associate producer Tony Amatullo, played by Carlo Imperato. Geez, too many names. Ira Stephen Bauer wrote 12 episodes of the series. He recalled, "I did 3 years of Fame, which was a lot of fun and was also in syndication. We had no one looking over our shoulder. We got to do some wonderfully bizarre things on the show." Following its cancellation, 2 versions of the series were syndicated in reruns. The original hour-long episodes, which usually contained a primary plot, a subplot, and 2 more musical numbers, and a second version, stripped of the musical numbers and subplot and reduced to 30 minutes in length. Stripped of the musical numbers, isn't that the point of Fame? The show's theme song was a pop hit for singer Irene Cara, having been featured in the motion picture. A re-recorded version of the theme using similar instrumentation to the 1980 track was used in the TV series and sung by co-star Erica Gimbel, who played Coco Hernandez. Although Gimbel left the series midway through the third season after the show moved from NBC to first-run syndication in 1983, her opening vocals were still heard on the show for 2 more seasons. An updated version of the song featuring a modern synthesized hard rock flavor was introduced in the fall of 1985 and performed by new cast member Loretta Chandler, whose character's Dusty, I guess. This version ran for the final 2 seasons of Fame. I Still Believe in Me, from an episode of a series titled Passing Grade, was nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Original Song. It was performed by Erica Gimbel and Debbie Allen, and co-written by Gary Portnoy, who went on to co-write and sing the theme from Cheers. In the United Kingdom, 2 singles credited to the kids from Fame, High Fidelity and Star Maker, peaked within the top 10 of the UK singles chart. On December 27th of 2008, Channel 4 in the United Kingdom, despite Fame having originally been aired in Britain on the BBC One, aired a 90-minute special titled Bring Back Fame, which sought out and reunited some of the original cast members of the television series. Those UK people really love Fame. Hosted by Justin Lee Collins and apparently filmed the previous summer, the show followed a presenter around the United States as he tracked down actors from the series and then staged a reunion. The program showed Collins appearing to surprise the former cast members in locations including restaurants, a recording studio, a gym, LAX airport, and a cinema before interviewing them and persuading them to take part in the reunion. The actors featured were Debbie Allen, Carol Mayo Jenkins, Lee Curran, Erica Gimbel, Valerie Landsberg, and Carlo Imperato. Also interviewed were Irene Cara and the mother of Jean Anthony Ray. Whether other actors from the series had also been approached but had declined to take part was not stated. Excerpts from the TV series were shown throughout the program. The final scene showed the 6 principal actors and a number of backing dancers taking part in a recreation of the title sequence of the program. I had no idea these things existed. But anyways, the original movie franchise, Smokey and the Bandit, is an action comedy franchise following the exploits of bootleggers Bo Bandit Darville, played by Burt Reynolds, and Cletus Snowman Snow, Jerry Reed, and Texas County Sheriff Buford T. Justice, Jackie Gleason, you some bitches. The series consists of 3 theatrical films and a television miniseries. Created by stuntman and director Hal Needham, the first film of the trilogy, Smokey and the Bandit, was the second highest grossing domestic film of 1977 in the United States and had significant cultural impact, including adding to the 1970s CB radio fad and igniting the popularity of the Pontiac Trans Am car driven by the Bandit. And now we go to the television. Bandit is a 1994 American television miniseries, who knew, based on the Smokey and the Bandit franchise. All 4 episodes, Bandit Goes Country, Bandit Bandit, Beauty and the Bandit, and Bandit Silver Angel, were produced for Universal Television's action-packed programming block from original Smokey and the Bandit director-writer Hal Needham. Brian Bloom stars as a young version of Bo Bandit Darville. The character originated by Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit and Smokey and the Bandit 2. The series serves as a reboot set in 1994, instead using the then newly released 4th-generation Pontiac Trans Am at the time. The car featured as Bandit 1 in this series is a Dodge Stealth, while the original Smokey and the Bandit trilogy introduced 2 generations of Pontiac Trans Ams. Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2 both featured a 2nd-generation Trans Am, while Smokey and the Bandit 3 featured a 3rd-generation Trans Am. The show's hit theme song, Another Dream Away, was performed by country music singer Dawn Sears. Sears is also featured in the opening titled sequence performing the song while playing her guitar. So Bandit Goes Country. The plot of that one is the bandit, again played by Brian Bloom, goes home for a family reunion, and along the way he meets music star Mel Tillis, who is forced to make an emergency landing when his plane malfunctions. The bandit helps Mel, but soon finds himself in hot water when his cousin Johnny, played by Christopher Atkins, gets into the music bootlegging business. The next one is Bandit Bandit. A bandit imposter, played by Jared Christopher, lands the real bandit in jail. He is arrested by Sheriff Enright. John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard fame plays him. But he needs to break out so he can deliver futuristic car safely to Governor Denton, played by Gary Collins. Number 3, Beauty and the Bandit. The Bandit is on the run with Crystal the Beauty, played by Kathy Ireland. Okay, I can take that. A young woman being pursued by a mobster, Tony Curtis, and a bounty hunter, Joseph Cortez, and the FBI. And then finally, Bandit Silver Angel. The bandit gets an unexpected visit from his uncle Cyrus, played by Donald O'Connor, who later dies of a heart attack, leaving his carnival to his widow Angel, Tracy Lords, played by Tracy Lords. The bandit helps Angel face off against some shady character smuggling stolen silver ingots hidden in the carnival. These all sound terrible, and I got to watch at least one of them to see how terrible they really are. Minority Report is a 2002 American cyberpunk action film directed by Steven Spielberg, loosely based on Philip K. Dick's 1956 novella, The Minority Report. The film takes place in the Washington metropolitan area in 2054, in which a specialized police department, pre-crime, apprehends criminals by use of foreknowledge provided by three psychics called precogs. The cast stars Tom Cruise as pre-crime chief John Anderton, Colin Farrell as Department of Justice Agent Danny Whitwer, Samantha Morton as precog Agatha Lively, and Max von Sydow as pre-crime director Lamar Burgess. The film combines elements of tech noir, whodunit, thriller, and science fiction genres, as well as being a traditional chase film, since the main protagonist is accused of a crime he has not committed and becomes a fugitive. Spielberg characterized the story as 50% character, 50% very complicated storytelling with layers and layers of murder, mystery, and plot. The film was first optioned in 1992 as a sequel to another Dick adaptation, Total Recall, with Arnold Schwarzenegger set to reprise his leading role. When the production company, Carolco Pictures, filed for bankruptcy, the project was reworked into a standalone project. Its development started in 1997 after John Cohan's script reached Spielberg and Cruise. Production suffered many delays due to Cruise's Mission Impossible 2 and Spielberg's AI running over schedule, eventually starting in March of 2001. During pre-production, Spielberg consulted numerous scientists in an attempt to present a more plausible future world than that is seen in other science fiction films. Some of the film's portrayed technology has proven prescient. Cruise and Spielberg's high-profile collaboration made Minority Report one of 2002's most anticipated films. It received positive reviews from critics and was a commercial success as a 2002's 10th most successful film worldwide, grossing over $358 million against a production budget of $102 million. It was nominated for several awards, including an Academy Award nomination for Best Sound Editing. Of 11 Saturn Award nominations, the film won Best Science Fiction Film, Best Direction, Best Writing, and Best Supporting Actress. It has since been included in the list of the greatest science fiction films of all time. A Minority Report tie-in video game and single-season television series followed its release, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Minority Report is an American science fiction crime drama television series that aired on Fox from September 21st to November 30th of 2015. It was developed by Max Bernstein and is a sequel adaptation of the 2002 film of the same name based on the 1956 science fiction short story The Minority Report by Philip K. Dick. It is the first Steven Spielberg-directed film to be adapted for television. On October 9th of 2015, Fox announced that the series order was cut from 13 episodes to 10, and then Fox canceled the series in the true Fox manner on May 13th of 2016. Fox loves to cancel science fiction shows. In 2065, Washington, D.C., Dash, a precog, has the ability to predict crimes. The pre-crime unit was dismantled in 2054, forcing law enforcement to rely on newer methods to fight crime. Before it was dismantled, Dash, his twin brother Arthur, and their foster sister Agatha were part of the program that gave them the unique gifts. Now Dash is using his ability to assist Detective Laura Vega in preventing crimes, and at the same time trying to keep his gift from being revealed, as there are those who want to obtain the precogs at any cost and use their abilities once more. The cast: Stark Sands as Dash Parker, a precog who can see the murders of others before they occur, who seeks ways to stop these preventable deaths. During his precognitive visions, Dash sees the fractions of the murders, the horror, as described by Wally, with the victim and the murder. Megan Good is Laura Vega, a detective of Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia, who Dash co-ops into assisting him on his mission to save would-be murder victims before their killers can kill them. Nick Zano as Arthur Watson, Dash's fraternal twin brother, an executor, estate planner, and finance finance manager. He reluctantly helps out Dash and Vega. While easier to endure than his brothers or Agatha's vision, Arthur's precognitive vision to act more as an antenna, pulling in names, facts, and information about the murdered person. Daniel London as Nurbert, Wally Wallace. Dash, Arthur, and Agatha's primary caretaker during their 8 years in the milk bath. Bonded with the three, Wally joins forces with Dash and Laura and helps map Dash's visions for better analyzing of the murders. Laura Regan as Agatha Lively, a precog who acts as an older sister, protector, and sounding board for Arthur and Dash. Agatha's visions allow her to become the person whose murder she is predicting. Experiencing an empathic bond with the person in her visions, Agatha's visions are the most traumatizing as she experiences the death itself. Lee Jean Lee as Aquila, a crime scene tech at Metro Police Department and Laura's best friend. She later joins Laura and Dash on their mission as their tech and information support. Wilmer Valderrama as Will Blake, a by-the-books professional, ambitious, and competitive police lieutenant. Previously Laura's partner, he is now her boss. On September 9th of 2014, it was announced that Fox had ordered a pilot for a follow-up television series to the movie. Max Bernstein wrote the script and served as executive producer alongside Steven Spielberg, Justin Fulvey, and Daryl Frank. Set 11 years after the movie, the series focuses on a male precog who teams up with a female detective to find the purpose to his gift. On October 9th, 2015, Fox cut the series order from 13 episodes to 10. The review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reports a 29% approval rating and an average rating of 5.4 out of 10 based on 58 reviews. The website's consensus reads, lacking either the action or the imagination of its big screen predecessor. Minority Report is a pedestrian spin-off that fails to capture the vision of the film. On Metacritic, the series has a score of 51 out of 100 based on 31 reviews, including mixed or average reviews. Honestly, I didn't even know this show existed, and I don't care. The Purge is an American anthology media franchise centered on a series of dystopian action horror films distributed by Universal Pictures and produced by Blumhouse Productions and Platinum Dunes, which are written and in some cases also directed by James DeMonaco, who was inspired by a Star Trek The Original Series episode, The Return of the Archons. The films present a seemingly normal, crime-free America in the near future. However, the country is a dystopia which observes an annual event known as The Purge, in which all crime, including murder, is legal for a 12-hour period. The franchise began in 2013 with The Purge, directed by the creator DeMonica, who also directed 2 of the sequels and wrote the screenplays for all films in the series. A 5th installment, The Forever Purge, was released on July 2nd of 2021. In addition to the films, the franchise has spawned an eponymous television series created by DeMonica, who also wrote its pilot episode, made of 2 seasons, each acting as mostly self-contained stories in the same universe as the films. It premiered on September 4th of 2018 and concluded on December 17th of 2019. All installments in the franchise, including the television series, have received mixed reviews from critics who frequently praise the action, tension, and performances, but criticize the writing. The franchise's prominent social commentary on issues such as violence, politics, class conflict, and race was noted, although a number of critics felt that they were undermined by the violence and formulaic writing. All films were commercially successful, with each film making several times its cost and revenue, with the film having grossed over $500 million overall against a combined production budget of $53 million. For the television show, The Purge is an American action horror anthology television series based on the franchise of the same name and created by James DeMonaco. The first season premiered on USA Network on September 4th of 2018 and stars Gabrielle Shavara, Hannah Emily Anderson, Jessica Garza, Lily Simmons, Amanda Warren, Colin Woodall, and Lee Targeson, with Cindy Robinson reprising her role as the voice of the Purge emergency broadcast system from the films. In November of 2018, USA Network renewed the show for a second season, which premiered on October 15th of 2019. The second season featured a new cast starring Derek Luke, Max Martini, Paul Nunes, and Joel Allen. And you know I'm going to butcher names, with Cindy Robinson again reprising her role. this time appearing as the character of Megan Lewis. In the fictional timeline of the franchise, the first season takes place in 2027 and the second season between 2036 and 2037. Thus, the series is set between the events of the films Anarchy and Election Year. In May of 2020, the series was canceled after 2 seasons. With ties to the films, the series revolves around an alternate dystopian United States ruled by a totalitarian government that sanctions a 12-hour period which legalizes all crime, including vandalism, theft, arson, and murder. The first season follows several seemingly unconnected characters as they experience the first Purge Night in 2027. The first season follows several seemingly unconnected characters as they experience the Purge Night of 2027. Miguel Guerrero, a Marine searching for his sister Penelope, who has joined a government-backed death cult. Jane Barbour, an executive who uses the Purge as an opportunity for revenge. And Gina and Rick Betancourt, married entrepreneurs who attend a Purge party to seek investment capital from a wealthy Purge supporter. The second season begins just as the annual Purge Night of 2036 is drawing to a close and follows characters dealing with consequences of that night and investigating conspiracies in the year before the next Purge of 2037. One story involves an ex-police officers who have become bank robbers. Another story follows an NFFA detective following a suspicious killing of a scientist friend and discovers many of their peers have also been killed in suspicious circumstances. Other stories include college fraternity members who went out on Purge Night to collect items on a scavenger hunt before having to defend themselves and dealing with the PTSD afterwards, as well as a husband and wife who survive an assailant on Purge Night, only to discover that it was a hitman sent to kill the husband and begin to investigate why. Clear connections between these characters and their stories become apparent as the plot unfolds. The characters: Gabrielle Chavarro as Miguel Guerrero, a U.S. Marine who returns home on Purge Night after receiving a cryptic message from his sister Penelope. Hannah Emily Anderson as Jenna Betancourt, an anti-Purge proponent and devoted to charitable causes who is accustomed to locking down on Purge Night. Her choice to venture out for the first time leads to an encounter with violence that forces her to deal with deep truths about herself and her marriage. Jessica Garza as Penelope Guerrero, a member of a cult who pledges to be sacrificed but finds her faith tested when exposed to the realities. She is Miguel's sister. Lily Simmons is Lilla Stanton, a young, rich, and rebellious woman who refuses to fit in with the pro-Purge socialite crowd. Her confidence and charm mask a vulnerability that will be exposed as she attempts to deal with the unfinished business before the sun rises. Amanda Warren is Jane Barbour, a dedicated and hardworking finance professor who is convinced that she has hit an insurmountable glass ceiling at her firm, so she hires a Purge assassin. Colin Woodall as Rick Betancourt. After a lifetime of bootstrapping, he is finally climbing the social ladder, but currying favor with the pro-Purge elite presents unexpected challenges to his marriage, as he and his wife must agree on what moral price they'll pay to achieve the American dream. And Lee Tergeson as Joe Owens, an armored, masked, and seemingly ordinary man who drives through town, intervening in acts of Purge violence while listening to the taped lectures of a motivational life coach. And then there's several other reoccurring characters that I won't go through, and then you have your guest stars. A television series about the formation of the Purge was hinted by DeMonico. The series would possibly deal with how the new founding fathers were voted to office after overthrowing the U.S. government during economic collapse and social unrest, and how they ratified the 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, as well as devising the Purge. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the series has an approval rating of 42% based on 38 reviews, with an average rating of 5.51 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, "Bloated and boring, the Purge kills its own fleetingly fun premise and proves that not all stories work better on the small screen." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned a score of 44 out of 100 based on 13 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Frank Serpico is a former New York City police officer whose relentless stand against police corruption in the 1960s and early 1970s made him a national symbol of integrity and courage. Born in Brooklyn in 1936 to Italian immigrant parents, Serpico joined the NYPD in 1959 with an idealistic vision of justice. However, he quickly discovered a deeply entrenched culture of corruption where officers routinely accepted bribes and protected criminal enterprises. Unlike most of his peers, Serpico refused refused to participate in the graft. For years, he reported misconduct through official channels, but his efforts were ignored or suppressed. Frustrated by the department's inaction, he took his story to the New York Times in 1970, sparking public outrage and leading to the formation of the Knapp Commission, a groundbreaking investigation into police corruption. In 1971, Serpico was seriously wounded during a drug bust under suspicious circumstances. His backup officers failed to call for help, raising suspicions that he had been set up by colleagues who saw him as a traitor. He survived the shooting but retired from the force shortly after, disillusioned and disheartened. Following his retirement, Serpico spent several years living abroad before returning to the United States. He has since lived a quiet life, occasionally speaking out on issues of police reform and justice. His story was immortalized in Serpico, the 1973 film starring Al Pacino, based on the best-selling biography by Peter Moss. Frank Serpico remains a powerful figure in the history of American law enforcement, a lone voice who stood up for truth and paid the price for it. His life continues to inspire debates of ethics, accountability, and the personal cost of integrity. Serpico is a 1973 American biographical crime drama film directed by Sidney Lumet and starring Al Pacino in the title role. The screenplay was adapted by Waldo Salt and Norman Wexler from the book written by Peter Moss with the assistance of its subject, Frank Serpico. The story details Serpico's struggle with corruption within the New York Police Department during his 11 years of service and his work as a whistleblower that led to the investigation by the Knapp Commission. Producer Dino De Laurentiis purchased the rights from Moss. Agent Martin Bregman joined the film as co-producer. Bregman suggested Pacino for the main part, and John G. Avildsen was hired to direct the film. Pacino met with Serpico to prepare for the role early in the summer of 1973. After Avildsen was dismissed, Lumet was hired as his replacement. On a short notice, he selected the shooting locations and organized the scenes. The production was filmed in July and August. On its release, Serpico became a critical and commercial success. At the same time, the film drew criticism from police officers. It received nominations at the Academy Awards and the BAFTA Awards. Pacino earned the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Drama, while Salt and Wexler received the Writers Guild of America Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Serpico was also an American crime drama series that aired on NBC from September 24th, 1976 until January 28th of 1977. The series was based on the book by Peter Moss and the 1973 film of the same name that starred Al Pacino in the title role. A television movie, Serpico: The Deadly Game, served as the pilot and aired in April of 1976. Based on the true story of the NYPD officer Frank Serpico, the pilot follows his fight against the corruption within the police force during the 1960s and early 70s. He refuses to take bribes and exposes widespread graft, which ultimately puts his life in danger. David Burney stars as the unorthodox NYPD detective Frank Serpico, who battles the corrupt members of the police force. Tom Atkins co-stars as Lieutenant Tom Sullivan. The series aired 14 episodes before being canceled in January of 1977 and replaced with Quincy M.E. I remember Quincy M.E. All right, I'm gonna attempt this name. Training Day is a 2001 American crime thriller film directed by Antoine Fuqua and written by David Ayer. It stars Denzel Washington as Alonzo Harris and Ethan Hawke as Jake Hoyt. Two LAPD narcotics officers followed over a 24-hour period in the gang-ridden neighborhoods of Westlake, Echo Park, and South Central Los Angeles. It also features Scott Glenn, Ava Mendez, Cliff Curtis, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Macy Gray in supporting roles. Training Day was released on October 5th of 2001 by Warner Brothers Pictures. It received generally positive reviews from critics who praised Washington and Hawke's performances, but were divided on the screenplay. The film received numerous accolades and nominations, with Washington's performance earning him the Academy Award for Best Actor, and Hawke being nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the 74th Academy Awards. A television series based on the film, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, was announced in August of 2015 and premiered on February 2nd, 2017 on CBS. Only Noel Guglielmi, Tom Berenger, and Raymond J. Barry reprised their roles. The show was canceled after one season. 15 years after the events of the film, the series follows Officer Kyle Craig, who is played by Justin Cornwell, and he infiltrates the LAPD Special Investigations Section, SIS, by becoming a partner with the morally ambiguous detective Frank Rourke, played by Bill Paxton, whose off-the-books record has attracted the attention of the LAPD. So the cast is Bill Paxton as Detective Frank Rourke, a maverick head of LAPD's SIS, whose penchant for operating in a gray area to fight the war on crime is called into question. question. Justin Cornwall is Officer Kyle Craig, a rookie cop posing as Frank's new partner in order to keep an eye on Frank. Julie Benz is Holly Butler, a Hollywood madam who is in a romantic relationship with Frank. Katrina Law is Detective Rebecca Lee, an officer with the SIS, a unit that goes after the worst of the worst. She was rescued from the human traffickers by Frank when she was 4 years old and looks up to him as a father she never had. Drew Van Acker is Detective Tommy Campbell, another SIS officer and a former pro surfer. Okay. Christy Vital is Detective 3 Valerie Chavez, an investigator in Robbery Homicide Division, and Lex Scott Davis as Alice Arredondo, I think. A history teacher who is Kyle's smart, cynical wife. Marina Jean Baptiste, sorry if I mispronounced that, Marine, as Deputy Chief Joy Lockhart, Frank's former supervisor and Kyle's current supervisor, who sent him undercover to investigate Frank. Now, on August 7th of 2015, it was announced that Antoine Fuqua, had decided to develop a television series based on a movie and had teamed with Jerry Bruckheimer to develop the concept. Warner Brothers Television was shopping the show to the American broadcast networks. Will Beal, who wrote the series, while Fuqua, Jesus Christ, would serve as executive producer and would direct the potential pilot. CBS ordered a pilot on August 14th of 2015. In addition to Fuqua, Bruckheimer, and Beal and Jonathan Littman will serve as executive producers for the series. Everyone should be called Smith. Everyone's last name should be Smith, and then I'd be fine. So anyways, where was I? Executive producer for the series, which is set 15 years after the original film. On February 19th of 2016, it was announced that Danny Cannon would direct the pilot instead of Fuqua. On February 25th of 2017, lead actor Bill Paxton died of a stroke at the age of 61 due to complications from heart surgery. A day later, CBS stated that all 13 commissioned episodes had already been filmed before his death, as shooting already wrapped up in December of 2016. On May 17th of 2017, CBS announced it would not be commissioning any further episodes of Training Day in light of Paxton's death. Training Day received generally negative reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, the season had a rating of 24% based on 33 reviews with an average rating of 4.2 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, Training Day falls short of recapturing the excellence of the film in its television incarnation and fails to distinguish itself from the current squad of tired police procedurals. On Metacritic, the season has a score of 38 out of 100 based on 27 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Yeah, Shaft, baby. John Shaft is a fictional private investigator created by author-screenwriter Ernest Tiedemann for the 1970 novel of the same name. He was portrayed by Richard Roundtree in the original 1971 film and its 4 sequels. Shaft's Big Score, Shaft in Africa, the 2000 Shaft with Sam L. Jackson, Shaft 2019, also with Sam L. Jackson, as well as in the 7 1973-74 Shaft television films. Samuel L. Jackson portrayed his son, introduced as his nephew, named John Shaft II in Shaft 2000 and Shaft 2019, and Jesse Usher portrayed the character's grandson, named John J.J. Shaft in Shaft 2019. The blurb on the paperback on which the original film is based states Shaft is hotter than Bond, cooler than Bullet. The franchise began with that novel, Shaft, which provides a much more detailed backstory for John Shaft than the one seen in the film series. All the books in the original 1970 series are credited solely to Shaft creator Ernest Tiedemann, but from Shaft's Big Score onward, Tiedemann wrote them with assistance from ghostwriter Robert Turner and Philip Rock. Shaft is a television series that aired along with Hawkins during the 1973-74 television season on the new CBS Tuesday Night Movies. Broadcast every third week, the series is a follow-up continuation of the 3 feature films that preceded its release, starring Richard Roundtree as private detective John Shaft. It serves as the 4th installment overall in the Shaft franchise. Ed Barth co-stars as Al Rossi. Because it was to be aired on over-the-air television, CBS felt that the narrative of Shaft needed to be toned down as compared to the original 3 films. Now, instead of posing the police, Shaft worked with them, creating conflicts with Hawkins, starring cinema legend James Stewart, another police series with a starkly different viewership. Contemporary analysts suggest that since Shaft and Hawkins appealed to a vastly different audience base, alternating them only served to confuse fans of both series, giving neither one the time to build up a large large viewership. A further contributor to its ratings failure was competition from other crime drama series starring African-American private investigators. NBC's Tenafly? Never heard of that. And ABC's Get Christie Love, Richard Roundtree himself publicly expressed disdain for the small screen version of Shaft. Taken is a series of English-language French action films, beginning with Taken in 2008, created by producer Luc Besson and American screenwriter Robert Mark Kamen. The dialogue of all three films is primarily English, and all three feature Liam Neeson as Brian Mills. The first film received mixed reviews from critics, but a positive response from audiences gave it great commercial success. The series grossed a combined $929,451,015. That's very precise. Worldwide, the series has also experienced diminishing critical reception with each successive film. Well, that's normal. So there was Taken, a retired CIA operative named Brian Mills crosses the globe to rescue his 17-year-old daughter after she is kidnapped by a group of Albanian smugglers while traveling in France. And then there's Taken 2, a mafia boss and terrorist, Murad, the father of Marco, whom Brian had killed by electrocution in the first film of the trilogy, plans to capture Brian, who is vacationing with his family in Istanbul, and avenge his son's death. And then number 3, Brian has been framed for murder of his ex-wife, Lenore. He then sets out to clear his name by going after the real killers, while also eluding capture from U.S. authorities for whom he formerly worked. A prequel television series based on a similar storyline and starring Clive Stanton and Jennifer Beals premiered in February of 2017. Taken is an action thriller television series based on the Taken film series. It is an origin story for Brian Mills, the character played by Liam Neeson in the trilogy. The series was commissioned with a straight-to-series order in September of 2015 and premiered on February 27th, 2017 on NBC. NBC renewed the series for a second season of 16 episodes on May 9th of 2017 that premiered on January 12th of 2018. NBC removed the series from its schedule on April 18th of 2018 and then announced that it would return on May 26, 2018. NBC canceled the series on May 11th, 2018. Oh my god, my head is spinning. And the final episode aired on June 30th. Former Green Beret Brian Mills must overcome a personal tragedy in order to get revenge while becoming a CIA super spy. So the funeral scenes and scenes in and around the Mills family, is there a lot of funeral scenes in this? Were filmed at the Christ Anglican Church and a period home at the corner of George and William Street in Port Stanley, Ontario, Canada. I just find it funny that they're pointing out where the funeral scenes are. There must be a lot of them. The rest of the series is filmed in Toronto, Ontario, primarily at Cinespace Film Studios, Kipling Avenue facility. At the end of the first season, the show was radically overhauled, with showrunner Alexander Carey leaving the series and Greg Plageman coming in as a second season showrunner. With the exception of Clive Stanton and Jennifer Beals, all the first season main cast exited the series at the same time. And I'm not really going to go over all the cast members. Clive Stanton and Beals is good enough. As far as reviews are concerned, the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes gives the series an approval rating of 32% based on 28 reviews with an average rating of 4.98 out of 10, and says Taken's cast hits the right notes, but overall the series fails to deliver a compelling narrative distinguished from its source material. On Metacritic, the series is a score of 46 out of 100 based on 22 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. Hi, gals and guys. It's Christopher Mosier from MyMediaHelper.com. I'm never sure how these are going to turn out. And there's different roads you go down, the rabbit holes sometimes when you're doing these. I never know how they're going to turn out. So hopefully it comes out good. And I just here to say I appreciate y'all. And please subscribe and like and share and hit the bell for updates. And I'll be making more of these. I enjoy making them. I'm not sure how they're going to turn out. If they turn out well, sometimes I feel they do. Sometimes I feel they don't. So that's up to you, I suppose. All right, kids. I will see you later. Peace out.